Welcome to the channel, Iron Man fans. Today we're diving into an emotional journey with Tony Stark as he faces his greatest challenge yet, losing the very technology that made him a hero. Sit back and prepare for a story of loss, resilience, and rediscovery. The camera slowly pans across the smoking ruins of Tony Stark's laboratory, once a testament to cutting-edge technology and innovation, now reduced to twisted metal and shattered glass. Emergency lights flash intermittently through the haze of dust and smoke, casting eerie red shadows across the destruction. Debris is scattered everywhere, million-dollar equipment destroyed beyond recognition, and in the center of this apocalyptic scene stands Tony Stark, alone, disheveled, with a small cut above his eyebrow, trickling blood down the side of his face. He stands frozen before an empty armor stand, the specially designed platform where his Mark 85 Iron Man suit should be resting. His eyes, usually sharp and calculating, now reflect only disbelief and devastating loss as he whispers, almost inaudibly at first, "It's gone. They actually took it." His voice cracks on the last word, betraying the emotional weight crushing down on him. With trembling fingers, he kneels to pick up a damaged helmet fragment, the iconic faceplate now split and darkened with scorch marks, the only piece remaining of his Iron Man armor. His fingers trace the scratched metal surface with an intimate familiarity, like touching the face of an old friend. The suspenseful music builds subtly underneath this moment of raw vulnerability. "6 years of work," he mutters, his voice barely audible over the occasional spark from exposed wiring and the distant wail of security alarms. "My life's work. Everything I built to protect the people I care about. Just gone." The camera circles around him, emphasizing his isolation in the vast space of destruction. In a sudden burst of rage that contrasts with his previous stillness, Tony slams his fist against a nearby workbench, immediately wincing at the sharp pain, a stark reminder of his now exposed humanity without the protective shell of his armor. He looks down at his bruising knuckles with something akin to surprise, as though he's forgotten what it's like to feel pain so directly. The suspenseful music intensifies as the camera closes in on his face, capturing the moment doubt clouds his features, and the reality of his situation fully dawns on him. "What am I supposed to do now?" he asks the empty room, his question hanging in the air unanswered as his shoulders slump slightly. "I'm just me." The last word comes out almost like a confession, or perhaps a realization that he hasn't faced in years. Beneath the technological marvel of Iron Man, there's just Tony Stark, brilliant but ultimately human. Dawn breaks over the New York City skyline, painting the glass and steel metropolis in hues of amber and gold. Inside his penthouse, Tony stands motionless at the floor-to-ceiling window, the beautiful sunrise contrasting sharply with his exhausted, sleepless expression. His reflection in the glass shows a man at war with himself, disheveled hair, wrinkled clothes from the previous day, and eyes reddened from lack of sleep and possibly unshed tears. He's been standing there for hours, watching darkness give way to light while his mind races through scenarios, calculations, and an ever-growing sense of vulnerability. "Sir, you haven't slept in 36 hours. Jarvis's voice breaks the silence, its artificial tone somehow carrying genuine concern. "May I suggest you get some rest before—" But Tony cuts him off, his voice hollow and uncharacteristically uncertain, betraying the vulnerability he rarely allows others to see. "Without the suit, what am I, Jarvis? Just another rich guy with fancy toys? Another target?" He presses his forehead against the cool glass, closing his eyes briefly. "They didn't just take a piece of technology, they took Iron Man." The AI's response comes after a thoughtful pause, its words carrying unexpected wisdom. "If I may, sir, the first Iron Man suit was built in a cave with scraps when you had nothing. The suit has always been an extension of you, not the other way around. You were Iron Man before the nanites, before the arc reactor improvements, before all the upgrades." The music softens, becoming more introspective as Tony contemplates these words, looking down at his calloused hands, hands that have built and rebuilt his legacy countless times before. His reflection in the window stares back at him, and for the first time since the attack, something shifts in his expression. Later that morning, with new purpose in his stride, Tony walks through a hidden doorway that slides open to reveal a smaller secondary workshop, a space few know exists, deliberately kept off the grid and separate from his main laboratory. Unlike the destroyed main lab, this space is minimal, almost austere, containing only the essentials of his earliest work. The music shifts to a more determined, inspirational melody as Tony flips on the lights and approaches a dusty workbench. "Backup Protocol Alpha, Jarvis," he commands, his voice regaining some of its familiar confidence. The AI responds immediately, "Ready when you are, sir," as holographic screens illuminate the space around Tony. He pulls out old physical blueprints from a locked drawer, paper designs from his earliest days as Iron Man, and spreads them across the table as digital schematics materialize in the air around him, showing the evolutionary journey of his suits. "They think they've won," Tony says, a new fire in his eyes as he rolls up his sleeves. "They think Iron Man is just the suit, but they're wrong." He activates a hidden panel in the floor, revealing a vault containing prototype components he'd been developing as contingencies. Not his most advanced work, but innovations that were never registered in his main systems. "Iron Man isn't the armor," he continues, the camera tracking around him as determination replaces despair. "Iron Man isn't the fancy tech or the flashy weapons." He picks up a screwdriver, twirling it in his fingers with familiar dexterity. "Iron Man is the man inside it, and I'm still here." The music swells as Tony begins working with renewed vigor, his hands moving with practiced precision across circuits and metal. A montage shows the passage of time, coffee cups accumulating, daylight shifting to evening and back to morning. Tony working tirelessly with determination etched on his face. "I don't need my most advanced suit to be a hero," he says with growing conviction as we see primitive armor pieces taking shape. Bulkier than his nanotech suit, less elegant but substantial. "Sometimes losing everything," he continues, as he solders a connection with intense focus, "is exactly what you need to remember who you really are." He straightens up, wiping sweat from his brow and looking at his creation. Not as advanced as what was stolen, but unmistakably Iron Man, and in some ways more impressive because of the constraints under which it was built. As the inspirational score reaches its crescendo, Tony looks up with the familiar spark of genius and determination that defined him long before he ever built the first Iron Man suit, a half-smile playing on his lips. "They wanted to destroy Iron Man," he says, the camera pulling back to reveal the assembled suit, gleaming under the workshop lights, a phoenix risen from the ashes of his destroyed laboratory. "Instead, they just made him stronger." He reaches for the new helmet, not as sleek as his previous models, but bearing the unmistakable visage of Iron Man. And the music peaks as we see the reflection of his resolved expression in the faceplate. The man and the machine once again united, but with a deeper understanding that the true power was always within. In the final scene, as evening falls across the city, a security camera on a distant building captures footage of what appears to be Iron Man. Not the sleek, streamlined version the world has grown accustomed to, but a slightly bulkier, almost retro version reminiscent of his earlier suits. The figure hovers momentarily, repulsors glowing against the darkening sky, before accelerating upward with a powerful thrust, leaving a trail of light in his wake. Inside the suit, Tony's face shows a mixture of determination and something like liberation. "Jarvis, set a course for the last known location of our thieves," he commands, the HUD lighting up his features as flight data streams across his vision. "I think it's time to remind them why they should be afraid of the man, not just the suit." As he rockets through the clouds, the camera pulls back to show the tiny figure against the vast expanse of sky, the inspirational theme reaching its final notes. "Ready for whatever comes next, sir," Jarvis responds, as Tony Stark, Iron Man Reborn, flies toward the horizon, not just to reclaim what was taken from him, but to prove to himself and his enemies that his greatest strength was never the technology wrapped around him, but the indomitable spirit and brilliant mind that created it in the first place. If you enjoyed this Tony Stark story of finding strength beyond the suit, smash that like button and subscribe to the channel for more superhero content. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss our next video. Comment below what you think happens next in Tony's journey. Thanks for watching.